A lot of patience, a lot of patience. So I think the core is, I think Jack Welch said this, do not compete if you don't have a competitive advantage. So really understanding, because think about it, corporates, especially enterprise clients, they buy from the international market. So you need to have a really compelling product. You need to have really compelling operational excellence, a very good team. You need to be able to back yourself, right? So I think there's so much that goes into this question, but if I can break it down into clear chunks, right? The first is patience is a virtue. When you speak to an enterprise client and you're building your business on enterprise clients, make sure you've got a runway because you're not going to land an enterprise client and roll out next week, right? With our first enterprise deal, it took 3.5 years before that actually translated into real, meaningful revenue. With our second, it took 2.5 years. So the reality is that you cannot approach an enterprise client like you approach a smaller startup that makes a decision quickly and they need to implement quickly, because there's so much reputational risk, there's so much risk in the organization, and remember, you're dealing with someone. People want two things: they either want to be famous or they want to be rich. So the reality is, then speak to that kind of thing. And I'm saying it jestingly, but within that, right? If you're an organization, you want to really add value to someone's life so that they can do their job properly, and you need to make sure and give them that trust factor to make sure that that is exactly what you're going to do. So three things. Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a business, whether it's in a friendship, people buy from you for three reasons: trust, value, and like. If they trust you, they will buy from you. And cementing that trust with the enterprise client is extremely difficult. So in that way, you need to educate that client as to what you're doing. And that's a process. That is drip feeding them with blogs, with content, with something that really adds value to them, to the decision maker, and making sure that they're getting that, right? So do they like you? Because they're speaking to you, and if you're coming across as being offensive and belittling and telling them what they're doing is wrong, there's ways in doing that. And neuro-linguistic programming is so important when speaking to enterprise clients, because you speak with someone that's in a high position in an organization. There's a lot of risk there. So how you handle that situation is so important, with extreme sensitivity, honor, value. You really need to honor that person in that process. And then trust, value, and like you and do I value you? Value means, am I giving you authority? Am I an authoritative figure in what I'm talking about? Have I done my research? Do I know the lay of the land? And can I really compete against any international client? Is my product worth it? Am I breaking down barriers? Am I solving problems? And that's where the pain relief formula in selling really comes in. You need to identify the pain that they have, and there needs to be a pain. Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult conversation. And then you must prove that you're the vehicle that translates that pain into the relief that they want. So that's the first three things. And then, obviously, when you go speak to an enterprise client, right, or I think any client for that matter, there's other three things that really matter. That's, are you speaking to the decision maker? And can you find those three elements, like value and trust, in the decision maker? Do they have budget? Because it's no use in you're having the conversation, but they haven't budgeted for it. And that is another thing that that takes time and tenacity. And it's kind of like between art and science, is speaking to organizations at the right time. Figure out when is their budgeting season. Figure out when do they actually, because there's no use in you speaking to them once they've already had budget for the year and now they don't have budget for your product, right? So you need to start nurturing that conversation. If you hit them after budgeting period, start nurturing that relationship. Build relationship with them before you try and sell to them, right? And then, so decision maker, do they have budget and do they have a need for your product? There's no use in selling to someone, like, there's no use in I going into a shop that's selling cakes, trying to sell them adaptive learning platforms, unless they're a massively scalable business, right? So if you're the enterprise you're selling to, don't really have a need for your product, and you're wasting your time. And time is money, and time is so valuable. So, and identifying your ideal customer, identifying the ideal pain they have, and how you can solve that pain for them, start there. And what's most important is, there's so much business out there to have, right? The world is so big. Identify who you need to sell to, and if you can do that in the most efficient way possible, it's going to translate in great revenue for you. There's no use in knocking down doors that shouldn't be opened in the first place. And a lot of entrepreneurs make that mistake. They build a product, they go and they start knocking down doors, knocking down doors. The reality is that, they're just actually wasting time. If they've done a little bit of homework and identified the ideal customer, they could actually open up 10 doors in the time they're trying to struggle to open up one. So those are a few things I'll just lay on the table. So, well, if you can focus on that, then you will succeed.